instead of trying to merge into traffic, which at its worst backs up to about that point from the Middlefield intersection. So we do have a few things that we have looked at, looking at in the phased approach, evaluating traffic after each of those phases and see if any of these things have some positive impacts. And then just to mention, obviously speed is always a concern. Back when the Fair Oaks area had a study done on how to control speed through that area, there was a recommendation for a number of chicanes, including, I believe, an additional chicane on Holbrook. And I'm not quite sure the history of it. Maybe Duncan, you have a better idea. But there was a chicane put in, and then it was taken out. And I think what we found in the Fair Oaks area is it's a mixed opinion whether people like the chicanes or not. But in our speed studies, they certainly do have a pretty good impact on reducing speeds. So that's something that came out of the study years ago, and it may be worth considering at some point.
Okay. Am I allowed the second one since it was an exception?
Lady?
I'm Jacquet McConville. I live on Holbrook Lane, number 17 Holbrook Lane, 23 years. I was here at the first barricade, and I want to be here for the second. Traffic's just getting worse. We have all kinds of solutions. We were there 15 years ago with all kinds of solutions. New barricade. Traffic's getting worse. Thank you.
In the back.
Hi, my name is Melissa Mills, and I actually live on 17th Avenue, about 2 doors down from Holbrook Lane. I just wanted to say that I agree that the traffic is terrible. I walk my dog at certain hours, like I've walked at 8 a.m. in the morning and had to jump into bushes and things like that to avoid traffic. And so I'd like to say that I agree that the traffic is a big issue, and that I don't think anyone on the unincorporated side would disagree with that. I think there may be some disagreement on how to take care of that issue. I've gotten to know some of my neighbors through some community watch groups and things like that, and I was surprised at the animosity that I heard about the original time where 17th had been, or Holbrook Lane had been closed off. People were still very heated and animated about that issue. And as a new resident, I've been a resident at 618 17th Avenue for about 4 years now. These people have been there for 20 years, and they were still upset about the first time. And so I think it may be important to take into consideration what some of these long-term residents in the Fair Oaks area think. I also would love to see a no right turn off of Marsh Road, or a no right turn off of Holbrook onto Middlefield as a try before cutting off our access. But let's take it as a step at a time. But I've made efforts to get to know my neighbors on the Holbrook side, and I would hope that we don't have a divide in between. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Anthony?
So my name is Anthony Waits. I live at 22 Holbrook. I lived there since 2003. Before that, from 1990 to 2003, I lived actually in North Fair Oaks on 9th Avenue. So I was here for the first closure, and it certainly did it did cause a lot of heat. Personally, wasn't an issue for me. I thought people just do what's in their best interest, but it seemed to cause a lot of heat at the time. But I think that was also because of how it was handled, as was mentioned by folks. And I know I've been helping Zolik, and certainly Zolik, we've gone out and talked to people at North Fair Oaks and kind of surrounding all the other streets. So we've taken a holistic perspective at this to try to see, if our street is closed, will traffic go on to adjacent streets and so forth and so on. So, and generally found quite a lot of support. But so that was one point I wanted to make, that unique perspective of having seen both. The other thing I wanted to say, having lived on 9th Avenue in the county, there was one project that was planned by the county, and surveys were taken about what to do, and finally a decision was made, and I was hoping it would get done before I sold my house in 2003. This was around 2000, these surveys were being taken. And one of my former neighbors, who I see every now and then on 9th Avenue, told me it just got done. So roughly, my impression is it takes the county about a decade to do something. And so given that, if I take my oldest son, who's 7 years old, and add a decade, he'll be roughly ready to graduate from high school. So I guess the speeding issue won't be. So we've certainly tried to get the county to act, and it just seems like, molasses and bureaucracy. So I can't, I think we should do something that we can control within our own means, and we should do it in a manner which is, as friendly as we can and supportive of of the people who will be impacted in North Roads.
Thanks. Any other comments?
Good evening, I'm Elaine Wong, and I live at 37 Holbrook Lane, and I've been living there for almost 5 years. And I would like to say that you have the power to make a change for our neighborhood. I have no confidence in the county. They have not, we've done surveys, we've been to meetings, but they have not done anything for our neighborhood. I'm walking my dog down the street of Holbrook Lane, and I do not feel safe. I'm always constantly looking behind me, around me, at cars that may be speeding down Holbrook Lane. So it's a safety issue, and it's also an issue of we need to do something. Since I've been living here, it's been 5 years, and I do not want to wait another 5 years. Thank you.
If so, no. Another comment?
Margaret Conant, 74 Holbrook Lane, and I've lived on the street prior to everything that has gone on. And there was several surveys done back initially in the early 90s when this was done, and there was the town of Atherton, along with the county, employed somebody by the name of David Schramm, and he said 5 street closures at the conclusion of the study. And of course, most of those would be in the county. And counties kind of slow that act on things. I actually think it makes more sense to close the street at Fair Oaks and 17th Avenue rather than in the middle of the street. But I just thought I would put that input, and we did get close with a lot of our county neighbors during that time, and maybe it wasn't handled in the best way when it was initially done. I do think it raised some ire amongst my people. But this is not something about trying to be separatist or elitist. This is a safety concern for both the Atherton residents and the county residents.
Well, if these are all the public comments, I'd like to bring it back to the committee here for their feelings.
Traffic's getting worse everywhere, all over town. We've got people coming in every meeting to complain about through traffic through Maple Manor, through every place that people are cutting through. And a lot of this traffic is really not Atherton traffic. It's people cutting through our town to get to other towns. And I don't know whether we have any sense for the people cutting down Holbrook, but I would guess most of them are going to Redwood City or the other side of town. And a lot of this, I think, is Redwood City problems, that they have not, if you try to get off at the Woodside overpass or Woodside exit from 101 at rush hour, it's impossible. So a lot of people are coming through Atherton to avoid, and the Redwood City shoppers, the Redwood City residents, workers, cutting through Atherton to avoid Redwood City created problems. Now they're talking about another huge development out of Seaport Boulevard. You think we've got problems now. Wait till that goes in, because I don't see the improvements of the Woodside overpass. What they really need to do, and I don't know how we can put pressure on Redwood City, but I'm suggesting maybe we ought to look at this, is they need more interchanges in Redwood City to handle their traffic. If you look at a map, it makes a lot of sense for them to put in a Fifth Avenue expressway. Put in another interchange at 101 at Fifth Avenue, which goes through to El Camino. That would take a lot of the pressure off of Atherton streets handling their traffic. So I would submit that we really have to get Menlo Park. I'm in favor, I think, of closing off Holbrook as an interim measure But I really do think it's going to negatively impact the other streets in that area as people get more frustrated. And we really need to get our neighboring cities to help us take the pressure off our streets.
John?
In the same vein, Holbrook, Stockbridge, all these streets, it's the speeders and traffic. We have a police department that works 31 days in December. There were 30 tickets given for speeding in Atherton in December for the whole police department. That's less than one a day. There was 52 warnings given for speeding, which I can't understand these warnings. If you go through the whole hiatus of stopping somebody and warning him, what are you warning him? He was speeding. Tag him. The officers, I've heard them say, well, if we tag too many, we're going to protest and go to court. When the officers go to court, they get paid. They can go in uniform. The speeding tickets would help Holbrook, would help Stockbridge, would help all these streets. It's not going to solve the problem. But if it's someone to cut throughs, as you say, they see a police car stopping there with the flags flashing, somebody getting a ticket, that warns 100 cars that come by while he's getting the ticket. The officers have to increase the amount of tickets given. And the heck with the warnings, we'll back you up, and I'm sure the council and the mayor will back you up. 82, that would be 82 tickets, but we only gave 30. And as you can say, you can see 30 speeders on Holbrook in a day, and the same in Stockbridge in 2 hours.
I think that there are three aspects that play on this issue. First of all, enforcement throughout town, which we've always seen as an issue, and we'll be addressing, no doubt, when we get to the police reports. But we've addressed it at this committee, at the council level, through 3 police chiefs. We've tried to stress as a council that we want considerably more enforcement and not just warnings. We want a police presence. When there's a problem, that's something that we want to prioritize. We want the police to go out. I mean, short of there being robberies or assaults or things involving people, personally, we want the police to support our transportation system in town. I'm less concerned about whether these are Atherton or Redwood City or Menlo Park residents, although clearly what you're indicating is there needs to be a more global solution than a narrow village solution. However, that would take even longer than this has already taken, and it has taken 5 years. So I think the issue here is the county has expressed the fact that it has been looking at a number of solutions, and it was going to look at those solutions in a one-by-one manner, just as we have attempted as a council to look at a solution to Holbrook in a variety of ways. We thought that the lights and dealing with the lights along Middlefield might help. We thought that when we put a light at Encinal, it might help. We thought that the later start at the high school might help. Clearly, none of that has really made a difference. So that's the traffic and what we're doing with traffic almost seems secondary to what we have to deal with on Holbrook Lane per se. And the problem with Holbrook Lane is the county, I think, had a very good solution, and that was stop all traffic off of Marsh Road going into the Holbrook 17th Avenue area unless you're a resident there, and make it enforceable. It was very simple, it seems to me. We couldn't do it as a council because we didn't own the property where the sign would go, where it made the most sense. And now we're on the horns of a dilemma. They haven't done that, and we're looking at a much more, perhaps, difficult solution in terms of the other blocks in Atherton and the other people in the unincorporated area. Not one that we willingly would have chosen. I would have chosen the no right turn that's enforceable. But it's all we have left in front of us to truly make a difference in some amount of time before we have young children graduating from high school. And so I think the time is to put it in as a test, but with considerable publicity. And by that I mean a publicity that's meaningful, short enough that people understand what's going on, clear enough that they read it, not as they tended to ignore what happened with recology in so many instances throughout the county. And make sure that they understand this is not something that we're doing to harm any particular neighborhood or to harm any particular people in a group of towns, but be it Redwood City or Menlo Park. This is pure and simple a safety issue. with the understanding that we have tried a number of other alternatives, and it can be as brief as, traffic flow later starting at